Listening to 27 degrees SAG. That's the exact mark on your astrological chart for the Galactic Center. And as we know, the Galactic Center is actually the source of all information for the universe. So here we are giving you more and more information tonight. I have a wonderful guest, and I know you are going to love the information that she has to share with you this evening. But we are under a Leo full moon, and this particular full moon, it is just glittering, it's sparkling. It is saying, you know what? There's opportunities out there, and you have to just get your courage up to take the first step and really get out there and take a big bite of that apple, because we have tomorrow, we have got Jupiter, and Jupiter is going to be skipping down the trail with Uranus, which means a lot of surprises that are going to be coming up for you that you've only talked about, hinted about. Perhaps you dreamed about it or wished for a long time this would happen. Boom, it's in your lap. And you may be stunned at first, but I want to tell you something. This is what's going to be getting the momentum going for the entire year. So I'm excited about it. I really am. And as we get into the end of the week, the sun is going into Pisces. And when the sun goes into Pisces, it's going to be visiting Jupiter. Jupiter expands everything. And you know, Pisces, they are notorious for no boundaries, creativity, psychic awareness, musicality, drama, artistic creativity. All this stuff is coming to the surface. They also are very selfless people. And Pisces are they're wanting to take the back seat and wanting to really highlight everyone around them. Well, Pisces, you better jump in the driver's seat, because this only happens every 12 years. So this is a big time for you. And you got this. I know you do. You're going to love it. And you are going to just finally get the recognition you deserve. You are going to feel so inspired. You're going to feel like you're on track. You're going to feel like you're being heard. You're being accepted. And guess what? That means that your heart center is going to open up for a great healing to take place. So I'm very, very excited for all of you Pisces out there as well. So if you would like to have a session with me, please go to my website, kimlalowe.com. I am going to New Jersey. I'm visiting the Jersey Shore March 2nd. And you can go to my website and learn all about that. So if you are on the East Coast and you would like to meet me in person and have a wonderful reading with me, I would love to meet you. And I would love to introduce you to a timeline that you are going to put into place so we can co-create exactly and use the energy of the universe to get exactly what you would like in your life. All righty. Okay. We've got a great show. My guest is here. She's waiting patiently. And her name is Dr. Cristine Price. She's a quantum health practitioner. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a superstar. She is doing all this wonderful things, and we want to hear about it. And I just want to give you a little background on her. She's practiced as a mental health and addiction recovery professional for over 30 years. Her traditional training with a master's in psychology plus a doctorate in natural medicine have merged into a unique approach to healing. She's got a really new book coming out, and I think that it's got to help each and every one of us and elevate humanity in general. She's the author of 4 Bodies, 4 Medicines, along with many other publications. But this is understanding the multi-layers of the physical, the vital, the mental, and the quantum bodies, and what it can lead for a comprehensive solution for otherwise challenging conditions. Cristine has in-depth experience in the field of substance abuse, child psychology, and mental health treatment. And y'all know out there that I have gone through it. You know, if you're suffering from anything, believe me, my hand is in the air. I have gone through it with my late husband and also with my youngest son. Please put your hands together for Dr. Cristine Price. Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, this is fun to be part of a very, I guess I would say hopefully awakened group, right? That's already kind of on this journey of understanding who they are and more about this, the dimensional aspect of healing and life. So that's where I want to head with this. So yes, where do we want to start?
Well, you know, I always try to get a little background on your motivation and your inspiration about, you know, what inspired you to research this kind of subject, and you know, did this hit home for you as well? Um, I researched it, you know, just because of the fact that when I was going to college, my home life was a little dysfunctional. So I wanted to study psychology as well. And I know a lot of people out there, you know, were kind of considering that and have, you know, dabbled. But, you know, we all get into this quantum leap with some type of a gateway interest. So what was yours, Cristine?
So yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned bipolar disorder and, you know, as we were discussing things before, so my journey actually started, I would say 33 years ago. I found a very low frequency. I talk about frequency model, low frequency answer to chronic depression. And that was cocaine. I became a cocaine addict 33 years ago. And my way out of that was night and day. I had a spiritual awakening. So in that spiritual awakening, it was like it changed me from the outside in. You also mentioned narcissism as, you know, as something that you've dealt with in a relationship. And that was my personality. I had a complete personality transformation at age 20, 33 years ago. And so that change in me motivated me to do more, to then share the message, basically. So I became very active in 12-step programs. But then I also married my drug dealer. So that's a funny story. Not really, but I have several books in me. They're coming out, and there is a story in that. And so what I originally thought was like, I'm going to save this guy, became, how do I? And, you know, with the alcoholism was, you know, was prevalent. He did get out of drugs to some extent, then went back and forth. And I was raising 2 little kids at the time. And so my journey became about recovering from codependency, finding a sponsor, getting help, and financially not being able to afford therapy. So my answers up until my almost 30 had been all through spiritual avenues. And so I was a substance abuse counselor, like I mentioned. I did have some training in supporting a healing model. And I started to realize that the clients I was working with were not finding answers through the typical approach. They needed more. And that's when I first created what I call the wellness diamond. And then this wellness diamond, I think we've all seen something like this. It has physical as one point, mental, emotional, and spiritual at the top. And so I realized the holistic, well, addictions are a holistic problem. They have holistic solutions. And so I started to explore brain chemistry and wrote a book on nutritional neurochemistry a few years later, because I realized for me, I was still not all the way put together either. And that's about when I had my first bipolar episode. I went in to get an antidepressant because I still had chronic depression. You know, the drugs didn't fix it. Even 12-step programs had a limit to what they could do. And so I started an antidepressant, went into a full-blown bipolar episode. And it was at that point, I'm like, there's got to be answers out there. And I started this deep search. I went on to get a master's degree in psychology, where as a parallel, and this is what was fascinating, is the same year I started my master's program, and I also got out of that first marriage, started to move into something new, did a frequency shift, a quantum shift in my life. And I attracted a massage therapist who showed me how to read chakras. That was so new. This was 1999-ish. Okay. And so that was still in the closet, for a lot of us. And so I'm learning about the energy body. The vital body is the second body. So I learned about the first body in understanding nutritional neurochemistry and trying to correct my diet. I discovered wheat and gluten were a reason for my depression,
Wow.
which did not come from school, did not come from, professional sources, but came from a spiritual or, this journey I was on.
Mm-hmm.
So the physical body was part of the solution. Then I started to understand the vital body. And that held a lot more answers than a lot of us, we don't know what we don't know. And there's a world of dimensional healing out there that when we start to move into it, it's uncomfortable. It's different. Gratefully, it's been more common in the last decade or so. But your show is amazing to have, talk about astrology, talk about life path.
Yes, yes. When I was dealing with my late husband, and he would go into a bipolar situation, I I knew that if I concentrated on sending him the right energy, he would align himself and working on his energy centers, his chakras, he would align himself. So what he literally the result that I saw actually was he would travel and then he would come back home when he was running on empty, pretty much. And then he would plug in, or he didn't really know, but he would feel such a difference being at home, with the children and me just aligning him, that within 3 days he felt so great. He was back out traveling again and abusing and actually trying to self-medicate.
Self-medicate. Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, there's like a difference there. I mean, people start back in the 80s and things like that. If you survived that was a big partying time when everybody was experimenting with everything, and we really didn't know our limits. We had no idea. And so but the point that I'm making is that once we kind of got out of that, we knew we were in trouble. We didn't know how to fix ourselves, and so we decided, we'll just self-medicate because nobody had insurance.
Yeah, mental health therapy wasn't super common until, the new Healthcare Act, actually. So
Right.
My client base doubled and everybody's packed in our area for mental health.
And we didn't really know that we were that much off balance because I think everybody was, as a general consciousness of our generation, was going through that. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of like we were all kind of on tilt a little bit, of the time. And so how did you know that you could be an author?
Yeah, I started with that book, 10 Ways to Balance Your Brain Chemistry. And I decided, my clients, I'm so tired. That's what it was. I'm so tired of repeating this information, and it takes 2 sessions to go through it all. I need to just put it in a book so I can hand it to them and they can read it. So, so a lot of my books were just because I wanted my clients to get the information that wasn't available. And this is, the internet wasn't, even now, it's kind of hard to put all those pieces together. You got to find it in a lot of different places. So put it all in place. And, and it gives all these natural solutions and ways to change your lifestyle that, that really do work long term. And then we go into the mental body. So there's the third body, which is really where the psychology field comes in to say, all right, let's change our thinking, because then when we change our thinking, we can actually change what's going on in our emotions. Emotions are very much tied to the vital body. The emotion is the energy of the energy body in motion. It's all kind of connected. And then we can also maybe even slow down our, our system, our nervous system, calm our nervous system through our thought processes. And I don't think that it's all kind of connected in our training, but it is in our being. And so the mental body, so this was the next part of my story, is that I'd gotten into private practice and was, things were working out. I was in a second marriage. And then a lot of times in our energy body, we also hold trauma and information that we can't make sense of. So I was playing out actually a generational pattern, and my parents had gotten divorced. And so the dynamic that in this second marriage was so much like my parents, that all this stuff was coming up that I wasn't even figuring out, what is this even about? And I ran into my Al-Anon sponsor from 12 years prior. And she told me that she'd been following Thich Nhat Hanh. So she'd left this northern Utah, gone all the way to India, was following this master of, of meditation and Buddhist thought, and was then had a monk in her basement. And so that's another book coming out. There's a monk in my basement, because that became, isn't that fun? That became the next doorway to my, the step into my next frequency shift, which was moving out of the roller coaster of dynamics in relationship and emotional ups and downs, and, and having to plug in and having to, exhaust myself. And so I learned meditation. And I would say with my chemistry, that was not something I would have chosen. Like, this came to me. and so I learned to have experienced stillness and silence. And for someone who's bipolar, this is huge, because my nature is extreme, or has been, very much, like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all the way. And so to find this center, and especially to find the mental center, the nothing, that then opened the next door to the quantum. So in Buddhist philosophy or teachings, the idea is that nothing is everything. It's that nothing that allows all possibility, I guess, or the detachment opens us up to freedom. Mm-hmm. So then the concept of this, nothing is everything, started to really intrigue me. And I wanted to understand the 0 point field. So I started to explore, like, where am I going to learn about this 0 point field? Because I know there's something to it. I know when I go to zero, when I find the zero, this total silence, the total stillness, something in me changed, like something's there. Everything's there.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. And so the next door that opened, and this is kind of a cool story. So some of our healing does happen beyond this realm. Many of you probably believe in angels and have a sense of spirit guides. So my guide, my grandfather, was a very spiritual, faith-based man. On his deathbed, okay, so he's been in the hospital. My mom's been sitting by his side, just kind of waiting, as he keeps going in and out. So she'll notice, like, okay, is he gone? No, his heart rate's still there. But then he kind of comes back, and it's like there's this light about him and this sense of, like, he's checking out this other realm and coming back to the body in the process of the death process of leaving this body. And at one point he comes back laying on his hospital bed, my mom's sitting by his side, and he says, I get it. Would you please get me a book on quantum physics? And my mom's sitting there like, I'm not leaving your side. But yes, Dad. She pats his hand. I'll get you that book. I'll get you that book. Okay. So I was 16 years old. And a good 30 some, 40, almost 35 years later, he got his book through me. So he'd been passed. And he came very clearly to prompt me into which university that I needed to go to get my PhD, because I felt that like I'm ready for a PhD. And it was Quantum University.
Wow.
And I questioned it. I'm like, shouldn't I be getting a PhD in psychology? I mean, that's what I thought originally. Like, I will, get my PhD in psychology someday. But no, it was Quantum University. And that is where I got the rest of the pieces, understanding this fourth body, the principles and the science of healing, the elements of the quantum nature of everything within us, everything around us. Consciousness became, like, oh, there's this thing called consciousness medicine. People are starting to talk about it, but it's not like there's this clear path. And so my clear path started to form around that, the elements that worked in mental health. And that's where I think that was a little bit different. There weren't a lot of mental health students in the Quantum University program. Most had a background in medicine and were doing more integrative medicine with it, but not very many mental health avenues had been formed yet. And so I think one of the early ones, and my dissertation was actually on what I developed, quantum wholeness meditation. After all these experiences, I did transcendental, I did, worked with the monk, I had experience with Vipassana and different things, but I knew that there was something that I was to create. And so for me in my culture, what has worked is to create a meditation for the Eastern mind, the zero, the silence, and the Christian heart. And
I love that.
Well, one of my students actually, put that together. I'm like, I am going to use that for now on. And yeah, and it's this perfect, I guess, for me and many of the people that get trained in it, balance of our emotional being, our heart-centered, essence, and the silence of the mind. And so that ended up becoming, it was my dissertation program was working with couples in conflict and using this technique with the couples to neutralize their conflict and open their hearts to each other.
Wow. That's amazing.
It was amazing. And it was all during COVID. All during quarantine. I set it all up online in February before we even knew. I was all ready to go.
Wow.
And there were lots of couples come together.
Yeah. Well, you're stuck together in quarantine, that's the best the best time, to make
there was a lot of conflicts. You're seeing them 24/7. They're not going to work.
Right. Well, this is funny because going through, the mental schizophrenic and also just the generational age that I went through, with pot smoking and then the cocaine and, the drinking and, that party atmosphere that my generation grew up in. We all went out, we all, survived. Well, a lot of us did not, but some of us survived, but some of us now, and this is what's very interesting, because as we are moving through the photon belt and the velocity is getting faster and faster, we are finding out that medicines are not working that used to work. We're finding, new avenues for alignment that let us drop these different addictions for good. Also, we're finding that a lot of foods that we used to eat are either tainted or are no longer compatible with the velocity of the body. And that's also with a lot of materials that we wear as well, and our sacred spaces that we live in. So when I see someone, who is perhaps having a challenge, and this is where I get a clue, Cristine, is I look at their chart. Now, I'm certified in Chinese as well, astrology. So I have a yin and a yang type of chart going on, so that I have this consultation, and you can see it coming, it's coming in, you see the timeline, you see what's going on, but you don't really have that particular habit forming change for the positive to give them. And I just am so overjoyed that you're coming up with this. This is something that is fabulous, absolutely fabulous.
Yeah,
So,
I'm looking at really messaging this potential of an integrative mental health model where there is more working with the energy body. That is something that just has not happened much in the mental health field. And it's like, why is there such a separation between those doing energy work and those working with the mind, through a psychology avenue? Why is it not integrated, And so one technique I've developed is called the complete EFT method, where a lot of people are familiar with tapping and, an emotional freedom technique. But I've created a training program around that I'm researching. And that's the thing, is that a lot of times why, something doesn't catch on or get mainstream is because there's not enough research and data and outcome studies and things like that. And so that's where my master's in psychology and my PhD come in, is like, I get the research model now. I can now establish, like, all right, let's see, what are our baselines? What's the pre, what's the post? Is change happening? How are we seeing that? Is it significant? And the crazy thing is that this technique, I've been able to now track it for almost 2 years with multiple practitioners, multiple clients, and compared it to our EMDR type therapy and brain spotting, which is an amazing technique. I actually am quite a fan of that one. But the EFT method is actually working at a higher level. It's creating change within one session that's almost double of some of these other techniques that we're familiar with. So I think the difference is because some of these amazing techniques work with the mind and neutralize the thought fields, but they're not working with the energy body. They're not bringing out, and that's things, we've got to move that emotion. We got to move that through the vital body, through these meridian points is one way. And so that's, there's things that are out there. We haven't, I think, brought it into the world that's familiar, the insurance covered,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because there is a whole body that's unseen, and the unseen energy is what fascinated me. And, when you can see someone's aura, you can see their energy, and you can see spots in it that's off or cloudy, or, I look at it and it's kind of muddy looking, that there's something on the outer, astral body that's on its way in. That is,
yes, in that quantum body, disease can be there and then move its way in. Exactly. That's one of the things I learned in my training. Absolutely.
right. Now, have you researched light codes at all, or anything to do with light medicine?
I've worked a little bit with light medicine. I do have like a light therapy system that I've used with my clients during the winter months, especially. It's very, cold and bleak here. And working with the light body, the light, and then also some, some just techniques and products that help support that light body a little bit.
Right, right. This is a really good time to segue into our sponsors since it's halfway through the show. So I'm going to really quickly take a time out and introduce you all to my sponsor, Ken Rolla, who you can reach on the internet. It's freshandalive.com. He has wonderful items and inventions for you. I have one right here that deals with scalar energy, and this particular model is really for a smaller bedroom type or a one room where you just plug it in. It's really simple, and it has a little, let me see. I don't know if you can see the light, but it has a little crystal with a night light on it here. And what this does is it produces scalar energy that comes off. Scalar energy is now known to fight off viruses and also to enhance your longevity. It aligns your particular energy field. You should, and it's fabulous for plants. You should see my plants that are growing out here. They're just going crazy. They love it. And I do have a testimonial for a client of mine that grows walnuts. And for the first time, they've got a bigger unit that you can get on freshandalive.com for the entire house. And they use this on their farm. And they have harvested the biggest return in Washington State. So this stuff works, and they also have it in a liquid form as well. I really enjoy the accelerated silver scalar liquid. So just a little pause there. And so you can also see all the products on my website as well. If you go to kimlalowe.com and go to sessions and products, at the very top of the menu, you can scroll down and you can see all of Ken's products that I'm affiliated with, that I have actually tried. So I'm behind it 100%, 110%, and would love for you to get involved and to get the results that we have been seeing. So that's all about scalar energy. So thank you so much for going to my website, or you can go right to Ken's freshandalive.com. So Cristine, you've written a lot of books.
I've done a lot of writing, not a lot of publishing.
Publishing. Oh, okay.
It's a hard part of the process is refining and knowing, like, is it complete? Do I need to do another edit? So I get the books, and then I kind of sit back from it and wait for the next. In fact, I learned this in Al-Anon, the right thought or action. And so they're coming. But some of it, like, I didn't realize, for example, I ended up writing a book on the complete EFT method, combining it with what I now call the Love Self method, which is an emotional healing process. And those are the things that I've brought into a lot of my trainings with couples, or I do group trainings as well. And I didn't realize that book was actually going to be a training manual. As I train EFT practitioners, that makes more sense for them than it does the average person, because there's just so much in there. They really, people really need live experience, is what I find, to take through, to go through a process and to have the support. And a lot of the books, the book that I was going to announce ended up becoming, right now, it's just the manual that goes with my liberation training, which is also like a personal development. That's more for the individual who wants to learn quantum wholeness meditation and who wants to learn how to use EFT to release, emotional stuff, and the Love Self method to change their pattern with emotional intelligence and how they relate to people and how they think. And so anyway, so that the manual I ended up creating for that is now part of the program, but just sending it out as a book right now is not where I'm going, I guess, with things.
Can you explain for my followers what is EFT? What is that and why does it work?
And it works. Oh, it's so fun. So the idea with EFT is that we have these meridians, and one thing that I didn't realize until I was working on the manual is that there's I think they called it an algorithm. So it originally came through thought field therapy. Roger Callahan, I believe was his name, and Gary Craig, who they worked together. And then Gary Craig decided, I'm going to take it in the route of just, let's get it out there to people. He was like, I think he was a pastor, and his mindset was like, let's just heal the world. And it's not about the money. And then Callahan was trying to keep it in the mental health field. And so he was taking it to conferences and that type of thing. And right there, you can look at, it's an interesting paradigm. Well, the one that made it was the EFT. The one that was just, Gary Craig was just putting it out there. And so many people know about it now because he just made it available. I think the training to get certified was like, or it wasn't really certification, but it was full training was like $30. Like, how do you do that? So I did that training clear back in 2003. And then I started working with it more. And I started adding in different components and different pieces, and it became kind of a different method. And so that's what I've researched. But in general, what you're doing, we can just do a couple spots right now, is you're working with, and so right here is the governing meridian point. Okay, so this governing meridian actually stretches all the way around your head, back through your back and down your tailbone. And then the other meridian we'll tap on is the central meridian, which is right under it. So these 2 points actually are the points of the tube. So did you know that our first form in utero is a tube? And these are the first 2 meridians that we go up with. Isn't that fascinating?
Yes.
It's crazy what stuff kind of all fits together, right? So this is a masculine meridian. So this is kind of like the masculine energy that is us. And this is the feminine meridian. And it travels from here down to the base of the torso. And so it encompasses the heart, the sensitive organs, the gut. And so when you're feeling something internally that, that's where a lot of your emotions sit, it's amazing to be able to let it go. So I typically have people tap here when they're feeling their emotion, their stomach hurts, their heart feels heavy. This is a powerful point to tap. When they're caught in a chaos of their mind, this is the point to tap, because think about it, it covers that mind. And the masculine is typically the side of us that's going to run a whole lot of scenarios and try to get us to do something, right?
And we're all, feminine and masculine.
And we're all feminine and masculine. Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, you can tap here, and there's more to the technique that I've added in breathing components and other, and then there's some affirmations. But if you just tap on this, take a deep breath in, and then hold it, and this is a key, and exhale. And you'll do that a few times, and there's a lot to the technique, but it can be as simple as just breathing and tapping here. Take a deep breath in and feel it. A lot of times you just feel it. Hold and then let it go. And there's something in that exhale that brings us to the silence. So as I learned about the 0 point field, I incorporated some of that into the technique to get people into that zero state so that it's like it's gone, it's neutral. And I think that's why we're showing results in one session of EFT, the complete EFT method, like I said, that go above and beyond any other kind of even evolved technique in the mental health field that I've used and that I've become aware of. So
Even better than acupuncture?
No, I haven't compared it with alternative health, just the
Oh,
mental health practices. Yeah.
gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
we're just comparing session to session. So somebody could come in having, high level of anxiety into a session and do some EMDR and come out, and we do SUD levels. So a SUD level, subjective unit of distress, could be a 10 where they're like on the verge of panic. And we want to get them down to below a 5 before they leave. And if possible, a 2 or a 1. And so with EMDR, typically people have an average of 8 SUD level and get down to about a 4 in a session. What we're seeing with the EFT is they get down to the 2 or 1 in one session.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it just gets more of that out. It's the neutrality is more complete. Because a lot of times when you're processing information, even though you're releasing it through, the limbic brain, you're still trying to work with one aspect of ourself, which is that mind. And the mind only can go so far with the healing.
Well, it just seems to me that everything is integrated,
Mm-hmm.
with the heart and the breathing and the thoughts and the releasing
Yeah,
and
the body. Yes.
the breath is so important as a component, to really get that right. And I think that I really kind of aligned when you said, the meditation was really something that was something you would not have signed up for.
Well, you want to hear the story? So tell me the astrology of 11-11-11. There's probably something with
Well,
that, right?
11 is, when you look at the numbers, they're pillars. And
Okay.
so, there's 2 pillars, right?
Okay.
So 3 pillars, that is a triple gate. That's a portal
It was
that
the
opens.
gate. That's what I found. So I decided I'm going to do a class, and this was 2011, and it was fall, and I'm like, I'm going to do a class on 11-11-11. I don't know why I'm doing this class, but I'm doing this class. And so it was September, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm teaching. I just know I'm supposed to do something. So I started preparing for it, and that was when I first found out about Vipassana meditation. So I didn't actually do it. I went on record saying, well, actually, so I shared the story of doing Vipassana. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but this movie, a documentary was done showing one of the worst prisons in India and how they brought in this 10-day Vipassana training, and these inmates were completely transformed by it. Came out hugging guards, just bawling, changed completely. And I'm like, that was a spiritual awakening. So I want to understand that. So I do this class and I teach about Tara Brach, who brought mindfulness training into the psychology world, and a few other, great teachers that had brought some of this into the formal, the psychology world. And then I mentioned, then I talk about Vipassana and the power of it. And I went on record saying, I hope I do not have to go to prison to learn how to meditate. Because I couldn't imagine 10 days of silence. So I had to open up. There had to be something else that would open up. And it ended up, that's fascinating because there might have been 3 gates. Who knows? Because one of them was the meeting with the sponsor and meeting the monk.
Yeah. Wow.
And that was about a year later.
When I studied feng shui with the Chinese masters, they kept saying, every time I had a question, they just kept saying to me, go back and meditate. And I'm like, I've been meditating. I have a question about where this goes. And they were like, go back and meditate. Go back and meditate. And so by the time that was the only response that I got, it was kind of like knocking my head against the wall. Like you, I had to go back and meditate. So when I did, I literally, my channel just opened up like unbelievable. And that's when I started to be able to remote view and how I could see inside people's bodies and I could see what was going on. I was always very psychic and intuitive, but that other piece came in where there's absolutely no boundaries whatsoever. That's it. It was just everything was just unseen energy. However, I could see it really clearly.
Wow.
And yeah. And so I know the power of meditation, but also in the West, it's very hard for us to kind of really gather in that simple, just sitting and getting into the silent mode. But when you empty yourself completely out, so much information is allowed to come in. When you are an empty vessel and you're clean and you are aligned, it is like a rocket ship right to the universe, and you come back with all these goodies and these gifts and these wonderful I just want to say these wonderful formulas and all this stuff, to give humanity. And if we could all take just, every day a little time to gather ourselves and do that. First of all, the peace. Everybody wants to meditate for peace. And that's fabulous. That's absolutely fabulous to do. Don't get me wrong. But there's other things when you empty out what you're going to experience. And it doesn't get you to the crazy point. It doesn't get you to, I don't know. It doesn't make you, I don't know. It doesn't make you choose bad choices or, do anything like that. But what it does is it gives you the gift of understanding life.
Mm.
And that is something that, you can't learn in a book, or we go through these different experiences like what you were talking about and I was talking about. And you get a sense of just going through different, addictions or different abuses or different things to gain experiences so we can learn about life. This is so much easier. This is like, wow, I don't have to go through all that pain.
Oh, I love that so in my journey, it was actually quantum entrainment. Dr. Frank Kinslow, you might have to have him on your show. He's amazing. He wrote the book, The Secret of Instant Healing. And basically what he taught with that. So I was doing a retreat for the Buddhist monk, Nithya Shanti. He's out there. He does some really good stuff. And I started to go through an allergic reaction. And in the midst of this allergy, and it had happened a few times. So I was having to figure out how to heal my life and my body. And a woman came over who said, can I support you? And she's like, can I put my hand on your knee? And within minutes, my head stopped swelling. My heart rate went down. The redness, I could just feel like my skin was burning. It calmed, and the swelling went down in my hands, and I could breathe again. So it was better than an EpiPen, I tell you.
I was going to say.
And I was like, I just thought she was a healer. And it turns out she was actually using quantum entrainment with me. And I had no idea that meditation in the zero, well, it's really the unified field. If you look at the quantum mechanics of the meditation process, going past the 0 point field into that unified field, into the consciousness that connects us all, into the healing essence. And she just sat with that with me with intention. And I came out of it completely. And I went back to the retreat that I was stressed out because I was trying to manage food and make sure everybody's, how you do when you're managing something. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, you're glowing. You look better than you did yesterday. What happened? And it was this technique. And so I started to explore, I believe that's what opened the door to the quantum for me, was understanding this. Yeah. So understanding this quantum entrainment piece, and then what is it? How do I get that understanding of where she went with that and the healing that happened? And that's what, and then within months of that, I was enrolled in Quantum University.
Wow. What a
Yeah,
what
and
a
it
wonderful
became
gift.
incorporated into quantum wholeness meditation. It's
Right.
like that. There's a little piece of that in there. So,
Right, right. And that healing can go so deep through so many different layers that it can just affect your DNA. It can affect, it can affect ancestral lines, actually. And that is amazing. When we get into that deep and you begin to see the healing and you begin to see repairs in your own life and the lights just come on, and there are no longer blockages there, and the understanding and the love is being infused into those wounds and into those blockages. It is just absolutely miracles here on earth. And I am so happy that you came on the show today. We are, I just want to say a shout out, we've got a chat room going as well. I want to say hi to Miss Vandana. How are you? And Sheila and Kim is in there. And we have Vanessa is in there, and Dr. Marnie Hill. Federero is there. She's going to be on the show soon. She's in the chat room. And Mr. Bill, hello. And we have got, I don't know how to say this name. Let me see if I can get it out there. Nomana. Did I say it correctly? I hope I did. That is so nice of everybody to come along tonight and share your thoughts and experiences. So how do people, where are you located? How do people, get this wonderful gift you're doing?
Oh, and I do have a gift. So I have a gift for all the listeners. On my homepage, I've got a couple of free ebooks. That's what I am getting out there, is like, let me just get it out there. And so I have both the 4 Bodies, 4 Medicines outlined as an ebook. There's a little picture of it here. It's, if you want to print it off, it's only about like 30 some pages, but it walks you through the 4 bodies concepts, a little bit of EFT discussion, some of the research they found, and the fun stuff on the quantum body. And then also I have the Love Solve, I think, method, a little intro to it on there as well. And so you can find me at CristinePrice.com. As you see, Kimla, you spelled my name right. Thank you so much. There is no H in Cristine. So CristinePrice.com. And there's some freebies on there. The book 10 Ways to Balance Your Brain Chemistry is there as well. And connect with me, because there's books coming and they're going to be fun. I'm doing some fiction. A story about a mental health therapist who has health issues and has to go outside the box to find solutions, and encounters a former Buddhist monk. You'll never know where that came from, right?
Yeah, I really want to hear about There's a Monk in My Basement.
And that one goes with it, yes.
That kind of sounds like, I don't know, a Netflix to me.
I know. There we go. Let's go. Yeah.
I know. It's
We'll create a series.
Yeah. Put it in screenplay form. I'd love to see the visual on that one. Definitely. This has been a wonderful session. Thank you so much. Cristine, you have got to come back and keep us, informed on what your next project is. She is in the middle of a summit right now that she is doing with over 400 people. And she is one busy lady. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming and taking the time for us this evening. And for everybody out there, thank you for coming along. And if you're just stumbling around and you just found us, just go over to the archives. We have so many entertaining and inspiring guests that come along and they share their experiences. And there just might be a little golden piece of information or something, or a little healing tip, just like we did the tapping tonight, that just might touch your heart. So I appreciate everybody tonight that's come along. And just know that I'm going to the Jersey Shore. I'd love to meet meet you. And on March 2nd, I'll be doing readings and I'll be doing meet and greets. And if you want all the information, go on my website, kimlalowe.com. Sign up for a time slot and I'll let you know exactly when you're confirmed. All right, everyone, until next time, may the angels protect you and guide you. Thank you, Dr. Cristine Price, for coming along with us and being our special guest.
Thank you. This is beautiful. Thank you for bringing this to the world.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.